There's another really big reason why the CrossFit Open hasn't been inclusive. This isn't down to CrossFit, this is the community. And for the most part, the community is great, but there are a lot of things wrong with it too. And I think we need to start calling out this behaviour. And some of this might have been caused by the Andrew Hiller effect.
Yo, I actually haven't made it all the way through this, but I can already tell you that there is going to be some good stuff within this back and forth that I'm gonna have with Sporty Beth. I call it a back and forth, but it's really just her stating her opinions, and then it's going to be me kind of interjecting and sharing whether or not I agree or I disagree with the things that she's saying. And here's something that's gonna be very important. It's something that I think that everybody needs to kind of get on board with here, is that while I may disagree with some of the things that she has to say, a couple of the things, I truly, firmly believe that we are coming from the same place. I have a YouTube channel 100% dedicated to CrossFit at this point. When I tell people not to sign up for the Open in 2024, it's not because I want CrossFit to die. When I make a video about CrossFit is dead, it's not because I want it to be dead. I hope that somebody somewhere out there is going to hear some things, and maybe it's going to do some good in the world, and maybe they can hear possible criticisms, take what they think is good and do away with what they think is bad, make some educated decisions, and improve with those decisions. That being said, may the debate begin.
I've been having a lot of discussions on Instagram lately and trawling through all of the content. A lot of people are posting lots of different things about the Open, and I'm going to summarize all of these issues that are coming up.
I'm a pretty big fan of how she kind of seems as if she's in one place, but then the background blows out. I don't know how she does that effect on her camera, but that's cool.
Nate brought up the fact the Open is now inconsequential for the elite athletes, and that makes it less interesting and less entertaining to watch.
Nate brought something up, but I really wonder where he heard it from in the first place, because I don't think that he's ever had an original thought.
There are less stakes in the game, and you can finish quite low down for the games athletes and still qualify for the next stage.
This is one that I'm going to agree with and have agreed with. The Open means absolutely nothing to the top tiered athletes, which is why when I make these videos, I think of basically everybody who the Open is now done for with. The people who have not made the top 10%, all the way to the person who took dead last in the Open. You guys are done, and that's usually where I sit right now with the things that I'm talking about. It does make the Open less fun to talk about. So whether or not it came from Nate Edwardson or wherever he decided to pull that information from, it's correct, which is weird because most of the stuff that is being talked about are the top athletes. You're talking about the top athletes, but it doesn't mean anything for where they're going to be finishing. I have a very simple solution to this. I think I shared it on the Sevon podcast, but you make the athletes first score in the quarterfinals, they're placing from within the Open, and they did that in the 2018 Masters qualifier for the CrossFit Games. So when Guillermo Harris finishes 421st in the Open, that's gonna be his first score for the quarterfinals. It gives them a little bit of incentive, and sure, you can still make your way around that sort of a thing, but you're going to be going uphill in the quarterfinals, and that sucks.
So the Open now is more of a mass participation event. However, it doesn't really have the markings of a mass participation event. The question really is it entirely inclusive?
I've been going back and forth with a affiliate owner named Brendan Ziegler, and I think the thing that we kind of got stuck on is that I don't think that the Open needs to be inclusive by nature. There's a word that he threw out there, and it was elitist, and then I just came back with the Forging Elite Fitness banner that CrossFit used to fly. And while I don't think that you just go for elite, make it as hard as possible, I do think that there's an art in making a workout where people can play and the elite can separate. If you've seen any of the workouts that I've put up, I think that if you look at it, there will be people who are going to do that 3-week competition that are now tests, and there might be people who can't do a chest to bar pull-up, so they can't play, and there may be people who can't do a muscle up, so they can't play, but I would bet that 95% or more of the population can do a weighted step up. How many? I don't know. Depends on how fit you are. How many snatches can they do on that first bar within 10 minutes? I don't know. Depends on how fit you are. Can they even move that second bar? Can they do single unders? Can they do a chest to bar pull up? And if they can't do those things, are those things where they can reasonably, if they wanted to now improve upon their fitness year after year, are there worlds in which they can get there? I would say so. If you don't know how to multiply 4 times 4, I'd say that it's reasonable within, I don't know, a year's worth of time that you now figure out how to use multiplication tables. And there are the 4 blocks, 4 block, 4, 4, 4. There's 4 in each block, and you add them all together and it's 16, and you can figure something out, right? And then next year you get a chest to bar pull up, and then you're going to be finishing higher based upon that because it's a test. But a saying that's always resonated with me is,
remember, ladies, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
And I think I actually stole that from the movie Sucker Punch. I don't know. The movie's crap, by the way. But if you're trying to get everybody in and it's your goal to get everybody in, there's no way for you to do the thing that you actually believe in, which is the test of fitness. But that's me. Remember, I said CrossFit doesn't believe in anything. This guy does.
The majority of people that follow me on Instagram are scaled athletes. There are plenty of people that can't do a wall walk and that were held back by lots of the heavy weights. I don't necessarily think that is a problem though. Having scaled divisions and foundations does make it more accessible. If you're a scaled athlete, we've just got to accept that you're a scaled athlete and that you can't do a wall walk right now, but you can work towards that and at least you can still participate in the all-round event.
I believe that what Beth said right there is kind of backing up what I just said. I did think that it was interesting that she had that graphic, and I always wonder about the polls that I'll put up. Of course, I've got a certain following and she's got a certain following, but she says that most of the people that follow her are scaled athletes, and then she has a couple of extra polls that come up, but what she does go into there is that if you can't do a wall walk now, maybe you can do one next year. The same way where I said maybe you can't do this weighted snatch at this level of this bar this year, then you can do them next year. So we're on board there.
The video procedure also makes it very not inclusive, and as somebody that trains in a non-affiliate, I had to go through this experience this year. People that submit videos are held to a very extreme standard of setting up. We have these really overcomplicated floor plans that are very difficult to do. You need an entire team of people. You need a judge, you need weight changers, you need a cameraman, you need at least 3 people in order to do an attempt. You've also got to film the measuring and the setup and all the individual weights, and it makes it very stressful and very difficult and very anxiety provoking.
There are a handful of things that I think we've kind of beaten into the ground at this point, and this is totally one of them. Another thing that I'm going to 100% agree with Beth on right here is that this is freaking
Madness. This is Sparta!
It's incredibly annoying. And I'll keep on referencing my open tests. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that happened with the way that I put them together was that most people everywhere could do them, whether it be the garage people or the freaking affiliate members. And especially when you look at that first week, you've got a barbell and you're just going to work out in your little box. You got a 9x9 box and you can do all your snatches in there. You got to change your own weights as I stated in my workout description. But then all of a sudden you've fixed the issues. You don't need to have a judge and a weight changer, and you don't also need to now make sure that your weights are set up in separate spots in relation to the pull-up rig, and it was a very easy test for week number 1. And I would also say it's rather inclusive, if you will, because males 75-pound snatch for 30 reps, females 45-pound snatch for 30 reps. That would just be your tiebreaker. Do it faster. And then again, we have the leaderboard filtering out. It'd be beautiful. But there should be no freaking floor plans for the open, especially when you're not going to do things like watch Noah Olson's video on the 0.3 workout from this year, where he clearly doesn't do 50 double unders. And if you're not going to look at that, then why does it matter where anyone else is doing any of the work anywhere?
Shun the non-believer.
Talk about exclusivity.
And on the other hand, we've got Adrian Bosman doing this video saying, oh, let's get all the CrossFitters in the wild, like go to the garage gyms and get them to participate.
Hello? Heard there's some fitness going on in here.
And I know I just mentioned the garage gym people, but this is not the look of most people's garages. Most people have a 2-car garage or a 1-car garage, a car in there with another car. And again, we've beaten this one into the ground, but when you release floor plans like the ones you did week after week, it makes it really de-incentivizing for people to sign up for the open. All right, all of you people in the wild, you fitness in the wild, look at this. Yeah, you're biased. You just saw the street parking people. Well, if anything, it gives me perspective, because I met up with Julia Miranda, the gods of the garage gym community. My words, not theirs, by the way. And when it came to that shuttle run workout on week number 2, guess where they did it? Not in their garage, because there wasn't freaking room. Now, is it of the utmost importance that CrossFit HQ and potentially Bosman, who are programming the workouts, are now going to do everything in their power to make people in their garages able to do the workouts? I don't think that's the most important, but the thing that you did that completely screwed them over are the standardizations of where you had to do the movements, and that's a huge miss and an oversight on your end. And it's unforgivable when you're trying to have 30 million people do CrossFit. Good luck with that.
I spoke about how in my video of 23.3 that it was really demoralizing to have to earn those heavy barbells. As a heavy lifter that can lift that top end barbell that is held back by that gymnastics, and how it took a lot of the fun out of it for me. And I had a really interesting comment on this. They said, I really hate the idea that you might have to earn a heavy barbell. Why can't there be an open workout where light body cardio monsters or gymnasty types have to earn their specialities? They seem to save the strength for the semis and for the games for some reason. Yet many day-to-day everyday CrossFitters would love the opportunity to shine with a heavy barbell. All this talk of inclusion in the open, such as with 23.2, would there be a more inclusive open with something like a 1RM deadlift? Can you imagine Friday Night Lights with people pulling PR deadlifts with the bar bending, and a 1RM thruster is not the same?
The very simple argument to this one is you can't just throw in a lift in the open. We saw that this year, whether it be a thruster or a snatch or a clean and jerk, without a lot of thought, possibly a minimum work requirement to it. She says that she doesn't like the idea of an earn your heavy barbell, but when it comes to strength, this is unique. And to be honest, if you were to talk about the thruster as a test of strength, I think that it's great because you're using your legs, you're using your arms. Very different than a deadlift where you can get away with possibly having a weaker upper body. If you're doing a squat, you can get away with having a weaker upper body. If you were doing a bench press, you can get away with having a weaker lower body. So it's an all-encompassing strength test, that being the thruster. So kudos to Adrian for at least choosing one where it makes sense. However, with that, I do think that if Beth had it her way and there was to be a test of strength, which there was this year, I don't know, it seemed like she got lost in there somewhere, thinking that she had to earn the heavy snatches at the end of point 3, forgetting that there was a standalone barbell, which albeit was at the end of the workout, but was its own test. And by all means, you didn't need to do 23.2A to do point B. There was no minimum work requirement. If you want a standalone test, there'd have to be no less than, 10, 12 separate tests of fitness. But then at the end of it, I still think that you're left with something such as a thruster in something like the open. You can't just throw in a 1 rep max bench press in a CrossFit competition.
Is that what you think? You think?
Actually, you know what? Sure, yes you can. Because at least when there's 10 tests of fitness, which there cannot possibly be in the open. Think about having a 1 rep max as one of the scores, such as there was this year, or 25% of that score relying on that weight, is that next year or the year previous where there were not those tests, such as what we saw this year with the previous year, it's gonna have a huge impact on where you fall. So while it might be cool, it has to be so thought out. What is it gonna do to the leaderboard?
I think the point about a heavy deadlift, like if you put in some of the more like power lifts or even just like a 1RM snatch or clean and jerk, that would be more accessible and give them more time. If you're really truly into making this a community event, an event for mass participation, and then you've got to think about it as 90% of the people that do the open are not going to go any further than this. So let's make it about those people. Let's make it enjoyable for them and not demoralizing. Stop holding people back from their strengths. I mean, this is just my opinion on it.
I do not agree with this, but there's a world of people out there that are going to hear the things that she needed to say, and those are potentially the same people who are now running CrossFit HQ, because
I don't know shit about fuck.
Remember, all I know is what I see and the way things play out. I call it as I see it. And the things that Beth are saying right here, such as, let's make it a community event. Everyone's gonna really get ramped up around the 1 rep max deadlift. The people on my end of the spectrum, which believe in the test of fitness, they want to see the year-to-year progression, and maybe they don't want the workouts to be the same every year, while some people have suggested that. It requires so much thought and effort, such as the stuff that we saw from Castro for so long, where if you got fitter, you would do the open and you would see that as a result on the leaderboard. I went from the 80th percentile to the 90th percentile. Cool, my work paid off. We just talked about how lifts skew this one way or another, even depending on what you are better at lifting with. Let's just say next year, instead of a 1 rep max thruster, which I hit 255 pounds on, that is my worst lift. But if they throw in a 1 rep max deadlift, my best deadlift is 615 pounds. And I really only know of a handful of CrossFitters who can deadlift more than that. So where my lift was good for 4,000, 5,000th place as a thruster being the strength workout, next year my deadlift would be good for top 150, maybe top 100. But depending on the strength test that you put out there, it can completely skew where you are in terms of your fitness. Fitness test. The test of fitness, Forging Elite Fitness. You can negate that by having 10 separate tests. But again, it goes right to what she was talking about. Is this community driven? Which it can be while still being a test of fitness, but maybe this is completely gone. It's just now community driven. Every argument that I've got is gone now if all they're trying to do is say that it's community driven. But then you can also get rid of this one too and just do it in your own affiliate. Have a good time. Don't worry about the floor layouts. You can make your own floor layouts. You can make your own workouts. You can keep the money.
Push up. Because if it is truly about the everyday athlete and about the wider community, then let them have fun and let them do stuff that they've been working on. Because not everybody wants to work on their weaknesses. I think there is this obsession with it being like the perfect test.
Yes, I am obsessed with it being the perfect test. Call me crazy.
If you want it to be a mass participation event, does it have to be that perfect?
All right, good point. No, it does not have to be that perfect. You win.
Can't quarterfinals then be the perfect test that narrows it down to the top athletes? And we can save the CrossFit Open for a big community event that people love to do. Thankfully though, a lot of people still want to do it next year. One of the reasons it can be so demoralizing is because a lot of us actually don't get better, although that's the message that CrossFit give out. Compare yourself to yourself, see how you get better across the years.
See, Beth says this, and I think this, but I don't see it. And I haven't heard them say it. They don't say that. I think actually Adrian said the end result isn't the goal.
My absolute outcome is not the most important thing.
Huh.
But actually, as the tests change, some of us get worse. And obviously as life happens, some of us get worse. Like I've gained 30 kilos, of course I'm gonna be worse, especially at walks. But
So Beth said two interesting things right there. She said number one, she gained 30 kilos, and number two, she did worse. Now, if we did believe in the test of fitness, and Beth did do worse in the open, maybe she can correlate those two things. But let's just say that you're somebody like me, who barely works out anymore. While I'm on steroids, I did better, doing maybe 15 to 20% of the volume and workouts that I did when I was at the tippy top shape that I was this time last year. I'm no scientist, but I do like to see where things correlate. And the things that I've tried to put together the same way where it makes no sense with me, Beth might be able to look at this and say, maybe the tests just didn't suit her this year. Although she gained 30 kilos, there's a reasonable point right here to say that that isn't the thing that made her place worse.
especially at walks. But
Potentially it was the way that the workouts had come out. Just food for thought.
and the point is, this isn't comparing us against ourselves. This is comparing us against some random leaderboard where the programming changes every single year. And
Whoa, Miss Lippy.
Great thing to talk about right there. We are comparing it to a random leaderboard with a whole bunch of random people where the workouts change every single year.
The part of the story I don't like.
And people have been saying, Andrew, do you think the workout should be the same every year? And I said no, but I do think that the person writing the workouts has some sort of responsibility
That little boy's gotta think. You got a pet. You got a responsibility.
to make the perfect version of whatever it is you can do to make that look as streamlined as possible. So at least you hit very similar aspects. And if you reach a little bit, it's just far enough where you're gonna make people angry, like potentially doing an unbroken set of ring muscle ups. But at least at that point, you know that the ring muscle ups have been there every single year.
You get your ass out there and you find that fucking door.
So the only person you have to blame for not being able to do those ring muscle ups is yourself, because you should have seen it coming. And then it's important that you do stuff such as balance that thing out with a set of heavy snatches. And it's not rocket science, it just takes a lot of thought.